Here we show how to set up and use a dual range force sensor. This device has a stiff spring inside with a known spring constant. When we apply a force to the sensor, it measures the movement of the spring and thus measures the force. The control variable on the force probe is time. The LoggerPro software automatically sets the sensor up to measure the dependent variable force as a function of time. There are a couple of things to note about using these detectors. There are two force measurement ranges, plus or minus 20 newtons and plus or minus 50 newtons. Set the switch on the force probe to the expected force range before plugging it into the LabQuest mini box. You should use the smallest range that covers the expected forces in your measurement without going over the range maximum. 2. When you plug in the detector, LoggerPro automatically configures it and sets up a default experiment. Always check the probe setup using the experiment data collection dialog box. The experiment duration should be long enough for you for your measurement, and the sample rate should be fast enough to measure the forces in the measurement. 3. Before using any new measurement tool, you should check to see that it is working. Do a sample run and make sure that the detector is doing what it is supposed to do. We pull on the force probe and see that it registers a positive force. We push on the probe and measure a negative force, indicating that the probe is working properly. 4. The force probe needs to be zeroed. That is, we need to set a zero force point. There is a small amount of mass in the force probe hardware, which means that changing the orientation of the probe leads to different force readings. We want to measure the force in the vertical orientation, so we hold the probe in this orientation and click the 0 button in LoggerPro to set this as the zero force point. We check to make sure that the probe is now reading 0 newtons. We need to check the 0 point of the force probe before each measurement. The 0 point can wander a bit as the probe is used. And 5. We always check the calibration of any new measurement tool to make sure that the measurement accuracy of the tool is as expected. For the force probe, this can be done by applying a known force to the probe. In this case, we hang a 100-gram mass from the probe. This applies a force of 0.98 newtons. We note that the probe reads slightly different than the expected value. We can use this calibration point, then, to correct any force readings.